Okay, well, let's get started. And the first thing that we want to talk about, this is my game plan here. I'm going to walk you through what my formula for playing by ear is, and then I'm going to break down each section of the formula and do a section of the video dedicated to that, and then we'll just maybe put it into practice on a couple of things. Okay? So first of all, let's talk about what is my formula. Well, I listen for the bass first. Okay? If your idea, if you're planning to copy a recording, that is, if you're going to listen to a recording and then try to play it on the piano, the first thing I try to listen for is the bass of, you know, whatever the low note is, because if you can figure out what the bass line is, that gives you an awful lot of good clues as to what the chords are in this sucker. Alright? And that's because about 50 to 70% of the time the chord is going to be, the bass is going to be the root note of the chord. Okay? So, and then other times it won't be, but it gives you, I think, the most information the fastest. After that, then I start to use my knowledge of, which I'm going to pass on to you, my knowledge of common chord progressions and, you know, likely places where it could be going. And I also listen for the kinds of chords that are being played. I'm going to give you tricks you can use to identify whether something is a major, a minor, a diminished, or an augmented, or maybe a dominant seventh or something. So first I listen to the bass. Secondly, I put into play my knowledge of what, you know, what direction chord progressions like to go in and what kind of chords are being played as they change. And then third, I pay attention to the melody line to help me refine and figure out what's happening that I haven't been able to figure out from the first two steps. Because the melody line will inform you if there's a grace note. Let's say that it's a 13th or some kind of a strange chord like that. A lot of times you'll hear it in the melody line. You'll hear the grace note in the melody line most often. Not always, but most often. And that will help me identify what's happening with the chord, because I will already have figured out what the bass line is, what the bass note is, and I'll feel like I've had some progress on finding the chord, but there will be something missing, and that melody line will kind of help me complete the puzzle, so to speak. So that's my formula. First I start with the bass, then I look at the chords, and then I look at the melody line. So we're going to take a look at, first and foremost, before we get started, what we're going to do is we're going to give you some, I would say these are some really easy pointers on how to identify intervals as a bass. As you start trying to figure out any of these parts, the bass line or the melody line or whatever, the intervals are the spaces in between the notes that are being played. And like I said, I'm not really going to talk to you about, you know, I'm not going to explain what an interval is and, you know, what a perfect fourth is and that kind of stuff in this video. I have a video that does that already called Understanding Chord Symbols Volume 1. What I'm going to do in this video is teach you some kind of cool and easy ways to spot which interval it is that you are listening to. So take a look at the website that's on your screen right now. I'm going to leave it up there for several seconds here. Jot it down. At that link, you're going to go to a satellite site that I have and that I use to create external links. There's a fun kind of an aid here, a download free aid that I found online, and it's a bunch of, what we're going to do is we're going to use songs to identify intervals. I'll get to this, I'll get back to these, but just for example, a perfect fourth sounds like this. Okay, well, there's a lot of different songs that start out with that interval, like Here Comes the Bride, that kind of thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify a lot, different songs you can use to spot these intervals along the way, and there's several suggestions for each interval on this web page that I've got linked at the, and it's kind of a goofy web address, so that's why I put a link to it on my website address that's on the screen there. So you can go to that, and that'll be a wonderful sort of tool for you to use. Lots and lots of good suggestions and really famous and easy to remember songs, Christmas carols, that kind of thing. So hopefully by now you've gotten that website address written down, and you can go check it out. You can pause the video and check it out now and have it in front of you. I've got it printed out in front of me, or you can do it later. But anyway, without further ado, we're just going to start. We're going to look at different ways to identify intervals, because that's the first part of ear training, is to start being able to hum something and be able to break it down and say, well, this is from here to here is a minor second or a major second, that kind of thing. So let's look at minor seconds first. Now there's a lot of different songs that you could use to identify a minor second, but I think that by far the easiest one to remember is the Jaws theme. Okay? The Jaws theme, we all know, is like... Alright, so that's a minor second, both up and then and down. Those are minor seconds. So when you're listening for something, if you're trying to figure out what interval it is, isolate that part in your head, and if you hear what sounds like the beginning of Jaws, when you hear these two notes next to each other, then you've got yourself a minor second. You can also use for what we call a descending. Okay, here's another one that people like. Okay, that Fur Elise by Beethoven. That song, not the whole thing, but just this beginning. That's descending. You're up and you go down a minor second. Listen to how that sounds. And then ascending is like Jaws. So those are two what I think are pretty common, pretty easy to remember songs for a minor second. So come back to this anytime to be your reference point, but both of those are written on the website that I gave you, so you might make a note of that. Let's look at major seconds now. Now in a major second sounds like this. From going up, it sounds like this. And going down, it sounds like this. Right? So what are some songs that we can use to identify that? Well, one of the easy ones is... There we go. That beginning of Happy Birthday is a major second. Da da da, da da. That's a really easy one that everyone's heard of. Here's another one. Rudolph, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. That beginning of that is from C, or for instance, is a major second. Doesn't matter where you start. Da-dum, da-dum. So that interval, when you hear it, you can think of Happy Birthday, you can think of Rudolph, you can think of Silent Night. That's also a major second going up. So there's plenty of things for that. Do a deer. All of those are songs that begin with a major second going up. A major second coming down sounds like this. What can we use for that? Well, we can use Mary Had a Little Lamb, for example, as one that comes to mind that everyone's heard. It starts with a major second descending. Da-dum. Okay? That starts with, that's Deck the Halls, of course, one of the most famous Christmas carols, and it starts with a major second descending. Bum, bum. And also Away in a Manger is another one that everyone knows. Again, major second descending, and probably the one that comes to my mind absolutely the most for me all the time is the Beatles song Yesterday. Yesterday, that is a major second descending. But right there is what you're looking for. We're just looking for these little hints, these little cues that we can use. You hear an interval, you're singing along, and you know, hey, where did we go? And you're like, now what is that? Hey, where? Hana. Hey, I think that's a major second. Why? Because hey, where also sounds like away in or yesterday. You see what I'm saying? These are the little cues that you're using when you're trying to hear anything, whether it's a bass line or a bass line or a melody line. You're just trying to give yourself little hints and shortcuts and cheats that you can use to spot what the interval is. So, Yesterday is a great one. MASH. You know, bum bum. Again, major second down. So that gives you a little bit of food for thought. You can go through and look at all of these to your heart's content and pick the one that resonates most with you. So let's look at minor thirds now. Minor thirds going up are like this. Okay? Now, what works for that? Well, there's a lot of things that work well for that. The Canadian National Anthem, for example. Oh, Canada is a minor third. That's one that I always kind of have popping in my head. Or Georgia on My Mind, you know, Ray Charles. Georgia, Georgia. That whole thing. Okay, so that's one that you could think of. It's a minor third going up. Brahms Lullaby is another really famous one. That starts out with a minor third. Dum dum dum. So that's a little cue for that. Now let's look at descending minor thirds. I think the easiest one by far on this list is Frosty the Snowman. That is a minor third going down. So if you hear that and you can hear Frosty the Snowman, then you've got yourself a minor third going down. Okay, another famous one from that list would be Hey Jude. Don't make it bad. I'm a Beatles fan, so it's easy for me to identify with Beatles songs, but okay. That's a minor third going down. Another couple of pretty famous ones that are pretty easy to remember is this old man, he played whatever, you know. Okay, or whatever the Barney one. I love you, you love me, we're a happy family, you know. Okay, so that's a minor third going down. And of course, how could we leave out, oh say, can you see, oh, the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, our national anthem, because I sell to a lot of people that are international here, so the Star Spangled Banner in the United States starts out with a minor third. So those are some ideas of how to spot a minor third going down. Let's look at a major third now. Okay, my favorite one so far is to go oh when the, you know, oh when the saints, because that's a major third going up. Oh when, that's a great one for a major third going up. If you're ever sitting around the campfire roasting marshmallows, you know, Kumbaya, my Lord, is also a major third. And also the Marine, I believe it's the Marine song, the Marine anthem, the United States Marines anthem, you know, from the halls of Montezuma, that one. But it starts with a major third ascending. Okay, so that's a trick that I use. Those are all songs that you could use to spot a major third going up. Now, how do we spot a major third going down? Well, my favorite one is Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which we all know. That whole thing. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum bum. That is a major third going down. Also, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, that starts out with a major third going down. So those are some of my very favorite ones that I use for a major third going down. Beethoven's Fifth and Swing Low. Now, perfect fourth. There's lots and lots and lots of stuff available for some of these different intervals. They're very common. A perfect fourth is very, very common. So, what are some obvious ones? Well, the one that I always think of is Here Comes the Bride. That's how I always spot a perfect fourth going up. If you like Christmas carols, Hark the herald angels sing. That again is a perfect fourth going up. There's so many other ones. Another Christmas carol, Oh Christmas Tree, is a perfect fourth going up. Oh Christmas tree. Another Christmas carol, We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish, that is a perfect fourth going up. There was an Elvis song a lot of us know, Love me tender. That starts with a perfect fourth. Love me tender. If you like Auld Lang Syne on New Year's Eve, for all acquaintance, again, there's a perfect fourth. Da-dum. And then I also think that it is pretty easy if you like hymns. Amazing Grace. That one is. So there's lots of really good stuff for ascending perfect fourths, meaning you move up to a perfect fourth. Descending perfect fourths, meaning that you go down a perfect fourth, as we know. Here's my favorite one. I do this at the end of like every video I ever shoot. Bum 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 bum. That's a perfect fourth down. So shaving a haircut, you know, I do that at the end of just about every video. I do something like, you know, so that's one thing you can think of for sure. Another Christmas carol, which I think are really good because everyone knows Christmas carols, is "O come all ye." That is a perfect fourth. "O come all ye faithful." That's one to keep around for sure in your mind. Oh, here's one that's pretty hard to forget too. Okay, so that whole bum 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 bum. You go to the baseball game, the football game, the basketball game, whatever. When you hear that little chant, that is it starts out with a perfect fourth descending. And then of course one other really easy one to spot is something we all learned as kids. I've been working on the railroad. That's just a series of perfect fourths back and forth. Bum ba bum ba bum bum ba bum bum bum. Okay, so those are some ideas for a perfect fourth. Okay, now a tritone. A tritone is in between a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth, and it sounds like this. There aren't a lot of good songs to remember for this one, to be honest with you. It's not a very common situation. I'm going to address this one a little bit later, so it's going to be slightly out of sequence, but I'm going to address how to spot a tritone when I talk about sevenths. So, excuse me, I woke up too early after sleeping too little, but that's alright. So we will get back to that in a little while. And we will move on to perfect fifth for the time being. Perfect fifth, much like a perfect fourth, it's a very common interval, and there's a ton of different ways to spot it. The alphabet song and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which are the same melody, come to mind first. Bum 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 bum, that is a perfect fifth. Dum 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 dum. The theme from 2001, the whole. That's actually a way to catch the bum bum. There's your perfect fifth. And then this actually happens to be bum 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 bum. That's actually a perfect fourth descending, so you can add that part, if you can remember it, to your perfect fourth descending list. Dum bum 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 bum. Perfect fifth going up. So that's one thing that's easy to remember in addition to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Blackbird by the Beatles is kind of a popular one. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Because they're just on the same note. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. When they finally move up there, that is a perfect fifth. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. So that is also a perfect fifth ascending. Let's take a look at perfect fifths going down. I really like this one. I think of it a lot as feelings, nothing more than feelings. That's a perfect fifth going down. So that's a good kind of a reminder for that one. Also, this is one that I also think would come to a lot of people's minds and would be easy if they had it in there, is Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. Okay, that's a perfect fifth going down. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. That's definitely one to keep around because it's hard to forget it, for one thing. If you like old, like Frank Sinatra kind of music, you know, someday when I'm awfully low, that song starts out with a perfect fifth going down. Someday, Flintstones, feelings, all of those perfect fifths going down. And if you took piano lessons as a kid, never had to learn the Johann Sebastian Bach Minuet in G, actually it's up here, but it doesn't matter. The interval is still a perfect fifth. Bum ba bum ba bum 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 bum. So those are some options for you for how to spot a perfect fifth. Let's look at a minor sixth here, going up, ascending. Well, the one that comes to my mind first and foremost is not the little pickup, but this part. That's a song that I think is pretty well ingrained in the consciousness of most people, and that's The Entertainer by Scott Joplin, also from the movie The Sting. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. That is a minor sixth up, ascending. Let's see here. Now we also have, well, that's better for the descending. That's the best one that I've been able to locate. There's some other ones on this list. Frankly, I haven't heard them, or at least I don't recognize them by their titles. But The Entertainer is the way I like to pick out a minor sixth. I always think of ba-dum, 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 ba-da, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da. Okay? Now a minor sixth coming down is, there's this, the theme from Love Story. Have you ever heard this? That whole thing, you know. By the way, I've never seen sheet music for that. This is just years of ear training working in my favor there. I don't think I've ever played it until that very moment, but I saw it on the list, and that's a great example of a minor sixth going down. Ba-dum-da-da-da. that is your minor sixth going down. Let's see what else we have here. Again, I'm not as familiar with some of the other. Oh, here's one that definitely works though. Nobody. Wait a minute, that's the wrong. Excuse me. They have got this mislabeled. Just this one mistake that I've seen. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen actually should be in the major sixth, not the minor sixth. So if you print this off, cross that title out of the minor sixth. That's where it should be, as major sixth down. So really, I'd take the love story theme myself. And also, the entertainer is nice for this because you can use it in both cases, because here's what it does. So anyway, in other words, when you look at it, you do have an ascending minor sixth, but then you have a descending minor sixth, then an ascending. See? So you can listen to that in your head. You can hum that and catch it as well in both directions. So let's look at a major sixth here. The one that I think is, well, there's two actually that I think are pretty easy and obvious for a major sixth ascending. The first one is, my Bonnie lies over the ocean, my Bonnie lies over the sea. That's one definite easy way to catch it. The other one is to go dashing, dashing through the snow, dashing through the snow. The word dashing is a major sixth going up. Okay, so that's definitely the two that I would associate most closely with major sixth ascending. And then Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen is a good one for coming down because it sounds like this. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. See? Nobody, nobody. That is a major sixth descending. That's the most recognizable one that I've been able to find, to be perfectly honest with you. There's not a Christmas carol or anything that I've come up with in my head or my studies that identifies that one. So if you're not as familiar with that, just try and be familiar with the first phrase. Just nobody knows. That, if you can get that far, you can find your major sixth. Okay? Now let's look at a minor seventh. There's a great, for me, I think there's a great minor seventh ascending song. The Star Trek theme. Okay. So anyway, I won't sit here and try and figure that out. It's got kind of a complex chord progression, but it's cool. But I just think of that melody. That is a minor seventh going up. Okay? Now, some of these other ones are a little bit less familiar, but if you grew up early enough to remember, there was a series of commercials going on for Ford Motors that always went, have you driven a Ford lately? Have you driven a Ford lately? That is also a minor seventh ascending. Da 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 da. Now, minor sevenths coming down are a lot more elusive. Here's the problem we run into. This is why I said I wanted to address tritones and sevenths together. These are very, very uncommon intervals in popular music, in rock, pop, and country. Very uncommon. And most of the songs you're going to be able to find that have that interval that you could try and latch onto are fairly obscure, you know, like jazz recordings, which not very many people are that familiar with. If you are, you know, more power to you. I'll give you some titles here. For a minor seventh descending, Watermelon Man by Herbie Hancock, Theme from American in Paris, and Little Red's Fantasy by Woody Shaw are all things that have it. But these are not, you know, highly entrenched songs in the psyche of most people. So here's how I would handle sevenths and tritones, is that you only have 3 intervals, that there's not an obvious something to listen for. So if you're having a hard time figuring out what an interval is, chances are it's either a tritone, a major seventh, or a minor seventh. So knowing that, use the process of elimination, sit down and just play a minor seventh, a major seventh, and a tritone and see which one it is. And let your ears tell you which one of those 3 it is. Rather than try and become familiar with some song that you're not probably going to listen to enough times for it to be ingrained in you. I mean, Jingle Bells, it's pretty hard to not remember. Dashing through the snow. I mean, you can't mess that up. You can't forget it, you know. But I think it's a little bit less likely that you're going to become so well versed with Watermelon Man that it's going to help you that much with a minor seventh. I think that if it were me, I would just put my focus on understanding that when there's a really strange interval, that it's probably either a seventh or a tritone. So try them out. Your ear gets better. I've gotten to the point, I don't really have a cheater that I use for minor sevenths, major sevenths, and tritones. I just over time have gotten to the point where if I hear it, I know that's a tritone, I know that's a major seventh, and I know that's a minor seventh. But that's come with a lot of practice and with just being around it for a lot of time, you know, a long time. So I think it's a lot faster to just, you know, rather than try and come up with a cheat for these, just understand that those are the 3 elusive ones: minor seventh, major seventh, and tritone. A tritone sounds like this, which is halfway in between a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth. The only thing I can say about that is, to me, it sounds like a siren. In fact, I think they do use it for sirens in Europe. Major seventh, there's a lot of dissonance in a major seventh. They don't sound particularly good together, those 2 notes. But it's a big jump. A major seventh is a big jump. It's the biggest jump that you can make that's smaller than an octave. So if you hear something that sounds weird, assume that it might be a minor seventh, a major seventh, or a tritone, and try them out. If they're not, then it's one of these other things, and you just need to keep playing around with your tricks. So those are just sort of what I use to identify the intervals. I'm going to look real quick. There's some obvious ones for octaves. For an octave, I think of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You know, that's an octave up. Somewhere over the rainbow. Again, pretty easy one to remember. Another one that's pretty easy is chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Chestnuts, that's an octave. Let me see. here's another one that's from the Christmas collection. I think Christmas carols are really helpful in this. Oh, the weather outside is frightful. There we go. That starts with an octave. Oh, the weather outside is frightful. So you have Let It Snow, what I just did there. You've got chestnuts roasting on an open fire, and you've got Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Those are octaves. Octaves coming down, frankly, I don't think they have as good of a metric for that, but it's that's another one of those ones where, frankly, rather than try and have a cheat for an octave descending, I would just know you're going to recognize this is a much larger leap. To go from here to here, it's quite a little bit bigger leap than to go from here to here, you know, or even there. So when it's a great big leap, that's where you just try it out. You know, is it a seventh? Is it an octave? Those kinds of things. And of course it helps in an octave because it's the same note, it's just lower. It's the same, basically it's the same pitch, it just is an octave lower. So those are my little tricks. Now I want to say, now that we've been through this, look, I don't expect that after just watching this section once that you're suddenly going to remember all of these and that you're going to be able to put them into play right away. But you'll always have this as a reference, because what I would do is I would maybe like just watch one or two different intervals and really get them ingrained in your consciousness. You know, just spend some time, just sing it to yourself and really get that interval and that cheat song, that reminder, your recognition song in your consciousness. Then move on to another one. It will help. It will help when you're starting to trying to listen to things and pick them out on the piano. Okay? So, but it's just helpful because if you're not sure what in the world something is and where to go with it, you can just isolate the two notes in your head. So if you have a bass line that's going like this, and you're not sure where it's going, then you can isolate those two notes. You're da-dum, here comes the bride. Oh, it's a perfect fourth, okay. Because you're listening to it and you hum it to yourself and you go, da-da. Hey, I think that's a perfect fourth. So these things can be very, very helpful. And over time, you just get better at it to the point where you're not really spending a lot of time thinking about your cheat songs. But they're very helpful in the beginning in this process. So that's why we went through them. It's going to take time for you to absorb that information, but it will always be there. This reference section will always be there for you to go back and refer to. And that's why I put it on this video. Again, if you don't know what any of these intervals are, if you don't know what it means to be a minor second, a major sixth, a minor sixth, the tritone, etc., then you need to either pick up that information somewhere, or I would, obviously I would love it if you'd pick up Understanding Chord Symbols Volume 1, where I'll teach you exactly what you need to know to understand all of this. So, not that I'm trying to shove my stuff down your throat, it's just that that's in Chord Symbols 1, that's what we are talking about, is what is an interval? What makes it a minor or a major second, or a minor or a major third? It explains that stuff. And then this is more about how does it sound and how can I identify it. So in the next section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through my process of picking a song out by listening to a recording and picking out the bass line by ear, because that's what I think the building block of playing piano by ear is. And then we'll move on from there.